Same thing was then true for this with bone density and fracture healing. Is a very similar number, 10% higher, 77.4%. In multiple clinical trials, PBM, which is red light photobiomodulation, helped reduce wound size significantly. One study showed up to 75% of ulcers reaching 90 to 100% after 90 days. PEMF proved in this study that it's actively altering gene expression and protein signaling, which we talked about, the gene alteration that's happening with that.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Inspire conversation. And we're bringing back a dear friend of the Inspire channel. He is producing movies, documentaries, healing programs, traveling the world, active in so many fields, and it's all for the betterment and well-being of the human family. He's simply one of those people that doesn't accept that we have to live in a sick, in an energy depleted way, and he's bringing solutions on all fields and to all the people of the world. So please welcome with me our friend Jonathan Otto. It's good to have you back, brother.
Thanks so much for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure to have you. I think you, as we're recording this, you're just back from Healing of the Ages, great conference. How was that, brother?
Oh, it was so much fun. It was the thing that was really profound for me is because you could, speak at any event or go and socialize and all these things. And it's like whatever. But what's really special is when you meet people that have had a benefit from what you've taught. And I've been on speaking tours where everyone is sick and nobody has answers, like almost everyone. And then they really chronic conditions, cancer diagnoses, like autoimmune conditions they can't get on top of. And this was an example where they were getting incredible results, and countless people were checking in with me, letting them know what I'd done for them with their health, from things like as edgy as urine therapy. And there were a lot of cases, and I could tell you story after story. My wife was super inspired last night. There was a case I was explaining to her that it was only a day or so before Cindy. She was coaching somebody, blood transfusions every week, got on urine therapy, 4 weeks, not needing a single blood transfusion, and the color coming back in the face, and and then the same woman, she couldn't take progesterone, but she needed to, and anytime she would take it, she'd get all these blood vessels coming up and bursting, and like strange symptoms, like, which is common to have weird, bizarre, unexplained conditions. Then on urine therapy, she had a complete recovery, so she's feeling super well. And that she doesn't have that issue now when she takes progesterone. It was, again, a random case, but just so many others. And then they brought me in, the same woman then brought me in on a glioblastoma case saying, hey, look, can you help? And Judy Markovitz came in, brought in a 9-year-old with pretty severe autism and Tourette's, an African boy that had been adopted by his American parents. And so then we got to work on that case. And these are all examples of me kind of volunteering and helping out, but that's the most rewarding part of what I do. And so because of that, it was amazing, both with projects that we were starting with people that were suffering, and with all the case studies of people that had transformations in all different types of areas. Yeah, one of the women, Larissa, unaliving ideation and major. She had a young child, and she said that the father of that child was very unstable. So that was one thing that kept holding her back, but it became insatiable for her. And she was in so much pain. And, I won't tell you what caused that, but that's a common thing that's happened over the last few years. That'll be enough for people. And she had just such a turnaround that her dad, who looks like he's probably about maybe coming close to his 80s, followed suit. And it looks amazing. He lost 30 pounds, and he had aches and pains all over his body, had a complete turnaround on all these issues that he was going through in his older age because of the inspiration from his daughter. So yeah, to say it simply, really inspiring to see people get better. And that's what I do this for.
I love that on so many levels, because when you share something to the best of your abilities, like, with the best knowledge that you have and from the heart, and then a stranger trusts that, right? And they just go, okay, I'm going to give this a try, and it changes their lives. I don't think there's much that compares to that feeling when that happens. So I know it's happening a lot to you. And I also can sense you never take this for granted, which I think is a wonderful thing. And you're doing this for a living. I know that you're also working in other fields. You're working with a technology company when it comes to prevention of child abuse, and in the online space, which I think is incredible, and so important. And then a big part of your work is teaching and showing people how they can use frequency, in addition to their own beautiful healing properties like urine therapy that we all use, but frequencies. This is a big field. I think it's the field of the present and specifically of the future. When was the moment when you discovered, oh man, it's energy, it's frequency, it's light? When did you discover that?
Yeah, it was 10 years ago. It started, maybe close to 12, where when I was working with The Truth About Cancer. So that's a documentary and a company, and I was working with them as a producer, and we became the most well-known alternative health documentary series, and specifically in cancer. And I remember some of the best doctors were using these therapies. And at that time, when you hear about it the first time, it kind of goes in one ear out the other, at least it did for me. But I could see that there were results, and it just stayed there with me. And then it developed more over the last several years, where I started to understand, no, this is very important. And some of that actually came through suffering and trial and error of seeing loved ones suffer and not get better. And anyone that's really humble then starts saying, well, there must be something I'm missing, unless conditions are just impossible to reverse. And I had a successful supplement company, Well of Life, a successful documentary company. We were getting these resources. We were streaming all this content free with Health Secret, with getting hundreds of millions of views against our films, helping people with that knowledge, sharing lots. And then over the last few years, sharing lots of free therapies, like some that I can't mention, and which, just go and follow some of my other content. So that's not a teaser. It's literally because I care about John's channel. And
Thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, it's so sad that we have to do this, but if we want to continue our conversations, we do.
We do, exactly. But don't worry, don't feel robbed. Anyone listening to that feels robbed right now if they're like thinking about it just very immediately. So yes, in this conversation, there's some things that I can't say, but I can have that conversation. All you have to do is just come and watch one of my latest series. Look at Regenesis series, for example.com, Regenesis series, Genesis with re in front of it, series.com. And that's a free series that will help you understand some of the things. I like a lot of the things, that specific thing I was mentioning, but urine therapy was an example, completely free therapy, helping people tremendously. And some people, we haven't really gone into detail on that. And I can explain why it's not a toxin, why we've been lied to about that. But importantly, then I came into understanding, okay, well, there's still things that are needed to revitalize the cells and make them function properly the way that they're supposed to. And this does rely on magnetics. It relies on light and how it will interface with the cells. And then I started unlocking some of the truths that were biblical as well. The fact that light was a part of the body, how it regenerates and heals, how cells are able to deliver oxygen and produce various forms of oxygen and other gases that are essential, like nitric oxide, and how that's critical for all cellular healing and arguably all conditions. So I started catching on to that. And then over the last 3 years, it's been a whirlwind of getting these resources, this knowledge and products to people to help them change their lives. Because you could learn about something, you could hear some inspiring study, but unless you're doing something about it, using a product that works, then it's just kind of just knowledge, not change, not transformation. So I feel really dedicated to making change with people. And that's why we get these resources and products to people.
Let's talk about the PEMF mat. You sent us one, and we use it every day. Christine, awesome. That's sort of the nightly ritual. It's in the bed. She lays on it. Then I lay on it. And then I unplug it and I carry it over to our son's room. He lives with us. He's 22. And I'll be honest with you, even though he lives in our family, he's aware of all those things. He's 22. So it's not as easy to get him excited about trying this new thing, right? You know how it is at that age. But man, he lays on this thing every single night, enjoys it, and what I can sense is better sleep because he has no physical problems. better sleep. And even though he's usually a pretty chipper fellow, I feel like it's mood enhancing in a subtle, beautiful way. And that's just, and then with us, it's so much better sleep, even though we already slept really good, but this was just a whole new level of sleeping good. And like a more, in the mornings when you wake up, it's just oh, my body's truly revitalized. Like I'm ready for the day. I'm ready to get up. That's a big, big difference. What happens in the body with that? Why does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's all to do with how your body is able to materialize the magnetic communication from a cellular level. So we got taught that the heart is a pump and that it just pumps and that's how the blood flows, but it doesn't actually make sense, because if you took your blood vessels, they would span for thousands of miles. And now if I took a hose or any kind of small tube and then I took a pump the size of the heart and pumped it, how far would that travel?
Yeah.
So then how does it travel? And it's through electricity, which relies on magnetics. And so
wait, say that again.
Side benefit.
Say that. Yeah. See, we're just kind of casually going over these things because we heard them all before, but
yeah,
the heart's not the pump, or the heart's not the major instrument that pumps the blood through the vessels. It's electricity and electromagnetism.
Yes. Exactly. So it's more of an electrical signaling system. It's a motherboard. So I'm not saying it has no function, and clearly you need it, but it's the electrical charge of the cells and their ability to pass on and generate energy, which is mitochondrial function. Mind you, mitochondria are not in red blood cells, they're in organ cells. And by the way, guys, I'm an investigative journalist. I'm not a chemist, I'm not a biologist. But we're all students of the laboratories of nature, students of God's wonderful creation. Somehow Adam and Eve, without being able to name, whether you believe in that or not, but some of the healthiest humans haven't been able to name what a mitochondria are, but they were relying on all these intricate functioning of the body. And regardless of whether you can get your head around every concept, the proof is in the pudding. If the studies, if the science, if the results speak for themselves, they speak for themselves. So, but yes, that's how cells communicate. And because of that, we then are able to do things that actually require various cellular energy. To sleep, you actually need certain systems to be working. You need circadian rhythm to work. And light therapies work well with circadian rhythm. And interesting that look at a tree, see the branches on top, and now look at what's underneath, the roots, and they mirror each other and they spread out just as far and wide as the top. One is as above as below. Starts getting really weird and intricate and interesting. You see birds gliding through the air with their wings and fins on fish gliding through the water, and you'll see that these things mirror each other. So it's fascinating that PEMF works with mitochondria and red light works with mitochondria, but through different currents. And if you're standing in nature, you're getting the Earth's currents, the magnetic pulses of the Earth. It's not as much a pulse as it is a magnetic current, and hence you're able to actually. I was accidentally going to say 10x, but it's a million x. The amplitude, and I could show you that, and you could put that into ChatGPT and compare the pulsed magnetic fields of a PEMF device of the specs that we have and compare that to the Earth's magnetic field. So you're getting a million times that. So if you're grounding all day, you would sleep better, but if you were on a PEMF mat for even half an hour, you'd sleep better than if you're grounding all day. Because it's a million times the amplitude.
I got to tell you this. I was playing around with the different programs, which are different frequencies that do different things or help with different things. And so I was under the impression that I was using the regeneration and healing frequencies, but after 15 minutes on the mat, for the life of me, I couldn't keep my eyes open. Like I just went into the deepest sleep, and then I checked and remember I'd taken the wrong program. I'd taken the sleep program, which is like, I've never taken sleeping pills or anything like that. I've tried melatonin just to see what it does. Certain teas, nothing ever put me to sleep like that program. So,
and that was the red light, right?
Yeah, well, that's the PEMF with the red light
Okay, wow.
It was incredible, like just to see, and I watch it with my wife every night. Boom, it's ready to go to sleep. But we're sort of optimizing. We're not healing from anything severe. but people are literally using this and we're not making any claims here, but coincidentally, people that use these mats and the red light also experience incredible results on their health journey. What are some of the things that have blown your mind?
Wow. Yeah. So I'll show you a few studies that are ones that I haven't showed you before that you'll love. I'll show you some on. Okay, this one will validate what we were just talking about, which was specifically on. Yeah. Okay. I'll show you a few things. You'll love all this. So this is an example of PEMF on the far right column, 69.7%. This is in insomnia. So close to 70% of the insomnia patients, they no longer had it.
That's like saying you get your life back.
Yeah, it was for these folks. And there's no, like, how do you get around that? Same thing was then true for this with bone density and fracture healing. Is a very similar number, 10% higher, 77.4%. But these were short periods of time. So it is possible that all these numbers could go to 100% if done frequently, like daily or every other day, and over the course of a few years or a few months. Some of these are 4-week studies, 8-week studies. That's short. And we're talking about people using this for then arguably the rest of their life. This was PEMF, which reduced pain by about 60% in people with osteoarthritis. And that was 2024. And so it's modulating the pain signals. These are the mechanisms. So we talked about mitochondria. It's all about, whether it's red light or PEMF, through different mechanisms, it's oxygen and nutrient delivery. And that's a really critical aspect to understand. And it's accelerating tissue repair and muscles. And it's balancing the electromagnetic signaling across cell membranes, which is this issue with EMFs and how it's wrecking people. And arguably, what if that's the big driver for anxiety? And people are saying, well, I've got anxiety. Maybe it's because of, I've had some childhood trauma. But what if it's the EMFs that's driving it? Because in this case, 485 people found that PEMF applied to the neck, and then it's influencing the vagus nerve. It's regulating stress and relaxing the whole body. And this was the 16 hertz. And so as well, if people get a mat like ours, or if they they're doing this, then you want to look at the hertz that's been proven. So on our mats, you've got the 1 to 30 hertz, which is the proven frequency range. And in this case, because the study has proven this, you'd want to use 16 hertz. But if it was for another condition, just put in that condition, say what frequency has been used for PEMF, and then you could put that into Google or ChatGPT and just grab that answer. There's no harmful frequencies, not between 1 and 30. No, there aren't any. But then, you see that result there. It's gently stimulating the nerve. It's improving sleep quality and reducing anxiety levels. And that frequency had the most noticeable benefits, the 16. It not only occurred during treatment, but also lasted a week after stopping. And because it was a shorter time period, then it only lasted a week. But if you look at studies that are longer time periods, you'll find that it lasts for 3 months, even 6 months. But it caters still towards the fact that it's not supposed to just be done one-off. It's supposed to be done continually, at least a couple of times a week, if not only once a week. You could still expect some great results.
You're covering with anxiety and sleep, you're covering, let's say, 95 to 100% of the American population has one, either anxiety or sleep problems or both. I mean, this is like, just imagine if under short-term use, 70% of the people or 77% of the people improve and sleep well, lose their insomnia. That's like, these are mind-blowing numbers to me.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, John. I'm glad you're excited about that. And I'll show you a little bit on red light again, because you can see how these all go together. This one's really interesting. So PEMF proved in this study that it's actively altering gene expression and protein signaling, which we talked about, the gene alteration that's happening with that. But I want to show you cardiac function. So, and this was heart scarring as well, heart muscle scarring. And so it worked. It improved the heart function, reduced the size of the scars left on heart muscle. It works in calming inflammation, helping heart cells survive, preventing too much scar tissue fibrosis from forming. And then it's not harming the liver, the kidneys, or gut bacteria. It's non-invasive. It's such an effective treatment for people. And so I'll show you here. Check out what we found with the light therapy with some of these really cutting edge studies that are just coming out now on thyroid conditions. So I'll show you this. Let's go. I've always got kind of new data, new charts.
I love that.
This one is interesting. Yeah, thanks. You've seen this one, which is the 9 different wavelengths that we have in our devices. For this is specifically in the red light. Now the PEMF has red light and actually green and blue, which is really cool. But it's the 660, and in this case with the red, we've got all the critical wavelengths for red light. And have a look at how it interfaces here with mitochondrial health, lupus, fibromyalgia, arthritis, stroke, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, diabetes, neurodegeneration, and eyesight. And I'll show you here. Let's go with this. So what's fascinating is you see studies on fibromyalgia with red light, see the same studies with PEMF, and very similar results. Then you'd say, okay, well, maybe I should just do one, but like you're kind of not mirroring nature. In an ideal setting, you would do both, because for some reason God decided to give you these at the same time. Even he actually designed to give you the light and the pulse magnetic field, because we weren't designed with shoes, in my opinion.
No.
Yeah. And so then those frequencies go together and you see what happens. So this was 4-week period. They less pain, improved quality of life. And this one was an example. The benefits lasted up to 6 months. So these are major structural differences. Like, tell me a supplement where you would take it and then it would last 6 months. Tell me a drug that would last 6 months. Tell me. So it's just, doesn't exist. This one, look at this one. This one I haven't showed you before. This was red light therapy for Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It's a 12-month study. So they all have Hashimoto's. They're all women. And they have an enlarged thyroid, which is showing a sign of inflammation, which is the body's attempt to heal itself. And guess how many reached a normal thyroid size? 96% of the women.
That, think about how many take drugs every day for every year of their lives and still struggle, and weight problems and up and down and all the other symptoms. 96%. That's nearly everyone.
Exactly. And like, do you think that these people for 12 months were all they were like put up in a clinic for 12 months? No, they were probably doing this from home, which means that what do you think might have happened with the 4%? Did they maybe not do it properly or do it at all?
I would say so. Yeah.
When numbers get that high, it starts making you ask that question. What if this was supposed to be 100%? I'm not saying it was, but I'm saying consider the possibility. Statistically, it's very interesting. Disclaimer here, they used also selenium and vitamin D. So good for people to know, because vitamin D is actually a hormone. Red light is causing the thyroid to produce hormones. And so you're supporting with the intake of vitamin D and also with selenium.
But Jonathan, we're talking about 96% or 77%. If we talk about other conventional methods, their efficacy is sometimes in a single digit, and it's still being used in every single case.
Exactly. I'm glad you say that.
Even if we talked about 50%, it would still be incredible. But we're talking about statistically the vast majority of people get incredibly better at a very fast pace. That's what we can say. That's like, come on. I mean, there's no argument here,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And then we'll, for the sake of time here, guys, because we want to make this really, really easy for you guys. We don't want to make it like overwhelming. So these are, we could go through thousands of conditions, but guess what? You've got the internet. And so you can use the internet to decide and understand. But I just want to show you some blockbusters that are completely unrelated, like diabetes and thyroid conditions. And doctors aren't going to tell you that they go hand in hand. They're foot and throat, right? They're not going to go foot and throat, but they're having these results. And look at this, in multiple clinical trials, PBM, which is red light photobiomodulation, helped reduce wound size significantly. One study showed up to 75% of ulcers reaching 90 to 100% after 90 days. Right. So 90 to 100% healing after 90 days.
Incredible.
There's this study there. Yep. And then neurodegeneration, this is near infrared, giving hope for people with Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is getting specifically dementia is getting diagnosed in children today. You don't believe me? Put it into Google and see the news on it. It's real. Because it's not a condition that people think. It's really driven by toxins. Yeah. And then if you can give your brain cells the energy to fight that, and I would argue opening your eyes and looking into the light in the morning is not only going to improve your eyesight, like the UCL University study that showed a 17% improvement in eyesight immediately, but it's going to help the brain cells because you're shooting it straight into the brain as if you didn't have a skull, which is incredible because your eyes are part of your brain. You're getting light straight in there. And I wish there was more studies showing that would be the number one way to treat Alzheimer's, red light with the eyes open. I'm telling you, like, you heard it here first. Watch what happens over the next few years once they start understanding that that's going to be the mechanism. It's just logic though. And that's why that's the thing that I'm good at. I'm really good at logic. I'm good at connecting dots. And I think that everyone can learn to think like that. I'm going to show you another thing here. Before we wrap this, but I want to show you the comparison here with. Let's look at. This one here. Let's go. Let's have a look at PEMF versus the Earth's magnetic field. So you can hear it from somebody, but people say all kinds of things. So you could put this into ChatGPT. So this is the electrical power and field strength of the PEMF device that John has versus grounding. The magnetic field strength is actually 150 millitesla, which is a clinical system, but it's a consumer price, which is really cool. And so it is 150 millitesla. Look at the grounding earthing frequency. It's 0.0005 millitesla, 50 nanotesla. So that's a huge difference. Okay. That might be more than a million. We can do the math on that, but amplitude difference is a million times stronger. And then the wave type is pulsed and oscillating versus static, which is a big difference. And then the frequency range is 1 to 100, and in our case, 1 to 30, which is the critical Schumann range. And that's compared to 0 hertz, which is the Earth's. And I'm not downing the Earth. I think everyone should still ground, but people are trying to heal. And this is why they should look at these technologies, because it's basically man being made in the image of God, being a co-creator with God, using what God has made in nature, and then God saying, yes, you can do this, and this is going to be applicable for these times. It was arguably not needed in the Garden of Eden because it was a perfect world. That now we've got some things to counter, and we are getting things that are done to the earth and the sky that is causing us to have a harder time. Now here's red light. This was 40 times higher irradiance, which is the power delivered, than the sun that your cells can actually use. And look at these comparisons. So I just wanted to show you that before we kind of land the plane on this, guys, because I want you guys to know where you can go. And John, perhaps that's where we share with people what to do now if they want to use these tags.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. The truth about healing and health is in light, is in sound, is in frequency. And so if people want to learn more, if people want to order their mat or order their red light device, where can they go? And I also want to thank you in advance. You're providing some incredible savings for our incredible audience. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So all you have to do is go to myredlight.com. And then when you're checking out, use the code INSPIRED25 if you're getting a single item like this sauna blanket. And that'll drop 25% off, which is great. And then with the PEMF mat, same thing. But by the way, that's red light, fire infrared, heat, and PEMF being the primary. And then you can see the specs. There's the 150 millitesla magnetic field strength, the 1 to 30 hertz, the far infrared, the photon lights, which is 180 milliwatts per centimeter squared at the surface, which is a nice higher radiance with 3 different types of light. So that's that, guys. That's really simple. And then with our red light therapy devices, same site, myredlight.com. And then what you do is then go over to the red light devices and then make a selection there on whether it's a smaller device, whether it's a larger device. And then, for anyone that's like, let's say, for example, somebody's limited, then look at their red light therapy belt. We had folks that had debilitating pain. I remember Dee Dee, she was a 9 out of 10 pain score. She had to quit a job and she just used our red light therapy belt. That's it's a couple $100. And then she wrapped it around her, turned it on. She went to a 0 out of 10 pain score. I'm not making a claim. I'm not saying that's going to happen for everyone. It happened for her. She reclaimed a $48,000 a year salary. And, for something that cost her nothing because of what she reclaimed. And so people shouldn't feel like, there's not a way for them. For those that have the ability, because this is something you should plan to use for the rest of your life, you should get something that covers all your organs. And that's why something like this could be one of the most amazing things for you, which is 9 different wavelengths, dual LEDs, which are light emitting diodes. They're non-toxic because they do not flicker. And you can test this with meters, and it's been heavily tested. It's got the highest tested irradiance, over 205 milliwatts per centimeter squared at 3 inches, which is about here. That's ideal to be that close. And you get that over your body with all the 9 most proven wavelengths, and look at the results that you'll get. And same with the pulse magnetic field mat, which I'll show you guys here. But yeah, I'll show you what that looks like here on the page. Just in the last couple of minutes we got here, if that. And it becomes a really simple tool to use. And that's an example there. And so there's smaller devices, there's larger devices. And then you could put in the code for the savings. As you can see, same thing, a single item, inspired 25, a group of items, inspired 30. And you can see the tested irradiance there on each of the devices. And that's these will cover all the organs, the 300 Pro and the Pro Max of the 300, because it's head to groin area for an average height person or even a slightly tall person. And then it comes with a freestand with the Pro Max as an example. And there's different things that you can see in each of the packages. And then you can use payment plans as well. There's the belt. These are examples of very accessible technologies. We've our red light, our Pro belt that has just come out. It's 5 different wavelengths, which is the only one of its kind that exists. We engineered that specifically. So these are just examples there, guys. And so you can find your way through that. It's very simple. And simply go to myredlight.com. And like I mentioned, with the payment plans, instead of paying $100 a session at a clinic and then not being able to use it when you arguably should use it, like before you go to bed and things like that, well, clinic is open at 9 p.m. at night. And so, and then you'd be spending so much, and then you'd be getting lesser of a result. You could spend $10,000 in a year by just going a couple times a week. And instead, you'll have a device now in your home for the rest of your life. If you want to double your dose, you don't have to pay more. But with a supplement, you would, like this. If I want to double my dose, I gotta buy another one. And in this case, the whole family is using it. It becomes the cheapest thing and the most effective. Like, you saw all the different results and all the different areas. How many different medications or supplements would be used? You'd probably. I've done the illustration with the $50 product, but most protocols really you'd have to have about 4 supplements. If they're $50 each, which is actually a middle range, that would be $200 a month just with 4. And now for the year, you're at over $2,000. And then if you've got a family of 4 like mine, then you're at $8,000, just like that. And but so what should be the basis for people? Get these technologies in the house, save money, and then also get yourself out of the rat race of how these systems are kind of really taking advantage of people, because people don't know that often the best therapy is the ones that are very accessible like this. And I'll show you the mat before we go, and then you can ask anything here in the last couple of seconds we got. I'm going to show you this mat. Okay, ready?
Oh, there it is.
Yes. Okay, ready? So I'm going to turn this on here. I'm going to put the frequency on. Now I'm going to put the lights on. And now...
That is
Can you hear
cool.
that?
I can hear that. That's a magnet in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
And even if I take it off, even if I hold it off the mat, it's still hitting. And it's showing you that there's no problem with wearing clothes, because clothes aren't going to separate you off the mat that much. It's not touching, as you can see. Once I get up to here, now I'm out of the range a little bit. It's still hitting. So body's magnetic, and so you've got to work with the magnetic charge. That's it there, and it's very wide. So if you're watching and you're overweight, then you could actually, my wife and I could both fit on this at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's very simple, guys. So I'm just really grateful that we get the opportunity to help people get their lives back, their health back, and it doesn't matter how old or young you are. If you've got elderly parents, muscle loss is going to be a big issue. Sarcopenia, PEMF is the best thing for bone density and sarcopenia. Red light therapy is the best thing for thyroid conditions, but they're all good for each other. And once you start realizing that, they'll mirror each other. PEMF would be the best for sleeping. Red light would be the best for eyesight. But you've got eyes and you need to sleep. And red light and PEMF are probably quite rivaled with autoimmune, like rheumatoid arthritis and osteoporosis, and and depression, anxiety. It's,
you know, to me, we hear what people are saying sometimes. These are expensive systems. Expensive. They're really not compared to what it is, but I get that. You know, there's all kinds of situations. The way that I see it is, there's a level of creativity that we can have. Like, for example, people spend, and not everyone, but people spend an extraordinary amount on Christmas gifts, for example, every year that usually don't amount to much. You know, it's like good for the moment. But if families get together, you know, share a meal and talk about this, go, hey, what if we get in on this together, you know, and we share it and we use it. These are the kinds of things that could change lives, that could change health journeys, that could change everything. So my intention is to help people just like you change your thinking around this and go, this is an investment that we make. You know, we're going to spend X amount on a car. We're going to spend X amount on a vacation, but this stays with you. So I'd encourage you to go check it out, myredlight.com. Use Inspired25 at checkout, the code that gets you a discount. And Jonathan, I want to thank you for your tireless work in all areas. And it's always an honor and a pleasure to have you, brother.
Oh, thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. And I love your perspective there. It's really good helping empower people, finding a way to make this work, finding a way to make it happen. And then from that place, let's be generous and give to others. You'll notice that in my street, lots of folks here on my street, you know, they're being blessed by being able to come and use my items. I've often got my stuff over at other people's houses. I've got a medical doctor on this street that's battling late stage cancer. That's, yeah. But sadly, a lot of the folks that need it the most as well don't take the time to understand it like the people here. So just remember, if you feel like, you know, if you happen to be a person like, I don't have a lot of money, but I know these things, that knowledge is the most powerful thing, because you will come to a point when you can. But there is often people that maybe they have everything money wise, but they don't have an open mind like the people watching do. And so just don't underestimate how powerful and valuable that is, because that same medical doctor has been so resistant. I dropped my red light products at their house many times, well, a couple times, and they haven't used it. And because they don't get it. And it's sad. But yeah, that's an example as well. There's a 0 EMF coming off there as well, which you can see that, and it's going to go off. It's going to go off the scale once I put it near the computer. Same thing is true with the PEMF. So just remember, it's not toxic. John, I appreciate you having me, man. It's been an honor and pleasure.
Thank you, Jonathan, and Inspire Tribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, we love you. We appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon.